Welcome to Quantum Workplace's webcast entitled Beating the Bear Market with Engaged Employees. We're featuring today Mark Hirchfeld and Leigh Branham. We're thrilled to announce that this has been our most attended webcast in the last 12 months. We had over 400 registrants, and it looks like several more are still logging in. So we've certainly touched a nerve here with the subject material. My name is Greg Harris, and I lead a company called Quantum Workplace. We measure employee engagement for 5,000 companies every year. We've allocated 30 minutes for this presentation today, so we need to dive right in. Before I introduce our speakers, I remind you that the first 25 folks that registered for the webcast will receive Leigh Branham's book, The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave. Attendees have to be logged in at the end of the call to receive the book. Since we have so many on this call, we're going to close it to questions until the end. You can use your comment window to submit those questions, and then we will respond to those when the call concludes. Let's introduce our speakers. Mark Hirchfeld has been studying outstanding workplaces for 20 years, first with the Gallup organization, and most recently with Right Management. His particular interest is in identifying the key drivers of employee engagement and helping companies implement those in ways that fit their unique culture and leadership. Leigh Branham is principal of Keeping the People, a consulting firm he founded in 2003 to help organizations analyze the root causes of employee disengagement and turnover, and then develop and implement strategies to become employers of choice. Leigh is the author of 2 books. Hirchfeld and Branham together are collaborating on a new book using Quantum's database of 1.5 million engagement surveys across 5,000 organizations. Thanks for being here, gentlemen. Let me turn it over now to Mark Hirchfeld.
Greg, thank you very much, and welcome everyone to this call. And again, because of our very short period of time, let's get right to our business. We know that you can't hardly open the newspaper in the morning or turn on the television without seeing the impact of what is going on in our current economy. An impact that is wide and deep and has certainly impacted literally everyone on this call in terms of where you live and what kind of industry you might be in. It just seems like this is one of the most profound economically challenging times we've certainly seen in the last 10 to 15 years. And so we were interested in whether this current economic situation has indeed impacted employee perceptions about their place of work. Now, hopefully, no one on the call feels like this gentleman who's being sent off the cliff, and that's how your needs are being met. But we know that there are probably associates in each of our companies who indeed are quite nervous about the future in terms of their own job and careers, and the future of their company. And so we hope to offer some insights about what we can do to provide perhaps a more proactive and positive way of dealing with our associates and helping them to get through this very important transition time. Now, back in November, when Greg and Leigh and I began to think about this issue, a handful of questions came to mind. If employees are indeed concerned about their economic future, how does that impact their perceptions of their workplace? Does it impact their feelings about employers, health care, retirement, and whether or not they still feel excited about staying within this particular organization? The most important question is the one at the end there, that if indeed there are external factors such as our current economic recession, if those have an impact on employee engagement, most importantly, what can we as employers do to mitigate that impact? And we're going to be spending quite a bit of our time on this call today discussing that very, very important issue. Now, before we get too far into our call, let's make sure that we have at least some common definition of an engagement. It's a term that certainly has been in the literature for some time, but we like in particular this definition from the conference board study that was published a few years ago. And it focuses on 2 important characteristics of both a heightened emotional and intellectual connection of an employee to their place of work, and that connection, importantly, drives additional effort on the part of the employee. And because it is such an emotional time now, we again are quite concerned about whether that connection is being impacted as a result of the current economic situation. We know this is important in terms of driving business outcomes. This very simple slide gives you an idea of how important engagement is and its relationship to key business outcomes. We know from years of research from multiple sources that if we have more employees being engaged, they in turn will take better care of our customers, and those customers will reward us by coming back to our business and referring their friends. In the course of writing this book that Greg mentioned with my partner Leigh Branham, we've collected 27 research studies that delve deeply into this linkage that we're showing here. If you would have interest in receiving a bibliography of those research studies for your review, please contact Quantum Workplace, and we'd be happy to have that sent to you electronically. Now, with regard to engagement, up until the first half of last year, research from several sources, including this study that was published in the Conference Board Review, did not indicate that employee engagement was being impacted by the economic conditions at that time. And if we can recall back to the spring, it wasn't that all things were necessarily rosy at that point. We may recall $4 per gallon gasoline, and employment had been going up. So certainly there were some conditions that were less than favorable in our economy in the first half of last year. But according to this study, and according to a study that we conducted through Quantum Workplace, employee engagement was not being significantly impacted as a result. This slide shows that even a slight increase in the first half of 2008 results from employee engagement compared to when we began to initially conduct these research studies in 2005. And as Greg mentioned, Quantum last year conducted research studies with about 5,000 employers. So we think this is a relatively comprehensive view of the American workplace, and felt confident, as others did, that engagement was holding strong. Sadly, that began to change course in early fall. As we delved into the database of Quantum Workplace, we identified 210 employers where we had statistically representative survey results from both the fall of 2008 and the previous year of fall of 2009. And rather than employee engagement in these organizations going up, for these 210 employers, we found that now a majority, fully 2 out of 3 employers, were seeing their engagement scores going down. So this evidence indicated to us that indeed employee engagement as we know it, although largely a function of what goes on inside an organization in terms of culture and leadership and the like, indeed was being impacted by these external factors. Now, what we wanted to explore even further is to conduct an analysis of those companies where engagement scores were going down, and then also where engagement scores were going up. Mind you, at least a third did have increases in spite of the economic challenges that we were facing. And as a result of that analysis, we identified 5 key differentiators between the companies where engagement scores are going up and where engagement scores are going down. And I'm going to turn over the PowerPoint to Leigh Branham, who will review these 5 differentiators and provide some very specific, meaningful action steps that we can take to maintain or perhaps even increase employee engagement in these difficult economic times. Leigh?